What it do, beautiful people, my melanated kings and queens. Welcome to It's Justa Conversations. I am your host, Justa Verse. Let's converse.
Yeah, I love it when you talk, baby. You're so smooth, like butter, cocoa. This is just a conversation. Tell me about it, do my mood and observation. Tell the love to be patient, but we gon' take it, we gon' not be complacent. We can run a race, search by the history and all our innovation. We just having conversation. Tell me about it, do my mood and observation.
What it do, beautiful people, my melanated kings and queens. It's just the verse, and we are at another episode of It's Just the Conversations. We have a very, very, very lovely couple in the building. One of my faves. We have Jay, who y'all all know, and Shannon, who you should know because she's come on here quite a few times. How are you two doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right over here. Loving to see y'all smiling and stuff. Y'all always make me so happy. The way Jay talk about you always makes me smile. Because it be cute and stuff. But I'm not going to do it to him right now on air. Because you know what he be saying? And then he... So this month, we are talking about Black love in the most positive way possible. And the reason why is because I'm sure you guys have noticed that over the last few years, toxic is the relationship goals. You know, you got couples beating on each other, cussing each other out, and you have these posting these memes that's like, if he's not willing to, you know, cuss somebody out me or do da, or you have people with videos with him playing with a gun in her face, and this is all cute these days. Okay. And then on the other side, we still have this continued narrative of Black men not being in the home and all types of stuff we have. So there's so much negativity when it comes to our relationships. And I am happy to say I know a lot of successfully married people who have healthy relationships. And you guys are one of those relationships. Last week we had my son and his girlfriend to talk about love in your 20s, so that the younger Black kids know, you know what I'm saying, this is healthy. This is a thing too. And this week we're gonna talk about y'all in y'all 30s and all of that good stuff. So I want to start it out by asking, how did you guys meet?
I mean, some people meet at, clubs, restaurants. They meet through friends, but I think we met through church, and that's probably not a cool place to meet people anymore. But I think for us, it was part of the foundation. And I think that's what was really important, the foundation of faith. And we had that common ground. It's not to say that anybody else's relationship is less than. It's just to say that whenever you have a common foundation, the building will always be stronger than someone who has two different foundations. If you built half your house on sand and the other house on limestone, you're gonna get your house doing this number here. When things come up, that will shake it. And so I feel like faith was an important area. So we met at church, and we became really good friends. We all go through certain things in life, and when you have people that can hold you down, without getting into specifics, like when I say hold you down, I mean like somebody who is willing to just call you out when you need to be called out, but then support you when you needed to be lifted up. And I felt like we had that, and it wasn't one-sided. I had issues going on, she had issues going on. We were able to complement each other, so it wasn't a trauma-based type situation. And I think that was important. And so as we became to be just friends, man, we just started to love each other. And I think when you have a relationship where you admire the person, I think it's even better. where you can brag on the person all day, like, oh, she did this, she did that, she did this, did that, and not necessarily on looks or how much resources they have, but just who they are. So that's the foundation.
Couple things. Anyone who has watched this show or who knows you already knew where y'all met because it just makes sense. And I'm saying it to say, meeting at a club for you wouldn't make sense, and I couldn't see a relationship like that flourishing for you because of the person you are. So to me, it's beautiful, and it only makes sense that that can be our story. We met where our foundation is. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's super, super dope because everything is not for everybody, but when it's for you, I'm sure there was little doubt that when hey, this she for me. She for me. She ain't for these streets. She for me. So
Right.
I think that that's super dope. The other thing you said, which is super dope as well, you said you need somebody who will call you out when need be and support you when need be. And that was Kiki and Makai's story last week during Love in the 20s. Because part of what I said to her was what I appreciated about her. Because I said, we were talking about her father, him having to earn the respect of her father. So I said, you didn't realize, but you were earning the respect of me because when I wanted to see how you reacted when Makai was on his foolishness. Are you going to allow him to just continue to be on his foolishness, or are you going to call him and figure some things out to get him? You going to check him on it or not? So I think that that's super beautiful. And the other thing you guys have in common is that you started out as friends. I think a lot of times people think if you meet somebody, oh, they cute, we got to be together. Yeah, it's like, there's no friendship, there's no room for that in there, because they don't allow room for that. I have a thing where I say, I don't feel a way about people who take a long time to get married or so on and so forth, because if we're going to be together forever, then that's just another day in forever. So if y'all are gonna be friends, it's cool that y'all be friends for as long as you need to be friends, because if we're gonna be together forever, that's just a little portion of forever for you guys, which is super dope to me. So just out of curiosity, what was the moment? Was there a thing for both of you that made you realize, wait a minute, I like you? Like,
I mean, just kind of touching back on some of the points that you reviewed. I think the fact that we started as friends first with basic foundations that were that coincided with each other, it came naturally. We were friends, we were prayer partners. Like at the end of the day, like I was so busy with work and everything else, I wasn't really looking for anything. And so I think I was at a point in my life where I was like, all right, God, this is important. And if you want it to happen, it'll happen when it happens, how it happens. But I'm just going to do what it is that's in front of me right now. And, I know a lot of people say, oh, it's when you least expect it. And that's exactly how it kind of happened. Just the fact that we were friends first, we were prayer partners. And then, one day it just clicked like, this is a really, truly amazing and selfless person. And it's someone that I can be open with. It's someone that I can bare my soul to and not feel judged and, feel loved and all of these things. And so from there, it just blossomed. It grew. And I don't know if there's a specific point in time because it all culminated from just those collective experiences. I don't know if you feel differently, but
I think there was a point. I mean, I think there was kind of like an incrementalism happening. Like it was just like, only thing I can relate it to is if you keep pouring into a cup, eventually that cup becomes too small for what you're trying to put in it, and you need to upgrade. You need to upgrade to something bigger.
I like that.
And so there was a point where all that was being poured into me became, or poured into our friendship relationship. The
Mm-hmm.
friendship relationship, the container was too small, so we had to expand it to a jug, right, in order to be able to continue to get the contents in there. And so I feel like that's the best way that I can explain it. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes all the sense. It brings me back to a sermon I heard back in Georgia in Griffin at New Hope. Bishop Sewell, he was talking. It was the part that I'm talking about is when he was talking about falling in love. He was like, I don't want to fall. I don't want to feel like I'm. But he was like, you want to grow in love. And what you just described is exactly that. I know the term and we use the term, but but the way that when you were talking, that's what I was thinking. When you, Shannon, started talking, it already came. And when he used that analogy, it just made it grow even more, because that's exactly what it is. This is an example of taking your time, I think, and allowing God to work. Don't put your hands in it. A lot of times we single people, we will be like, God, I want to be with somebody. Now, y'all won't hear this often, but I have had that prayer before. Okay, but I'm a G. Anyway, God, I want to be with somebody, and then go out and I'm shooting my shot. I'm not even giving the dude an opportunity to come and say, no, I want you. And it's like, we hear a lot of times, take your hands off of it and let God work. But it's like, God,
Yeah.
A blink of an eye is whatever for you, but that's an eternity for me. So I'm going to need you to, and we get impatient. We get impatient and we start making moves. And sometimes I think that's when we end up in relationships that could be bad timing, could be bad person, could be so many different things, because we just didn't give it a chance to just let it flourish. And I think that's beautiful with you guys. What were you going to say?
No, I was just, what you had said, it just triggered something for me. I mean, it makes perfect sense. I've been there in my life where it's, you're trying to do things on your own because you want it to happen within a certain time, but that time is just not for you at that moment. But you try to force it, and then you not only deny, like in many instances, you deny yourself and your values and things like that, because you see the relationship that you want or this person that you want as more desired than your own principles at that point, than standing by your own principles rather. And so sometimes that's a recipe for disaster. Just to go back to say, like, how important it is just for taking your time, being true to who you are, and not compromising at the end of the day. Not compromising. We all make mistakes. We all find ourselves in situations where we're like, how did we get here?
Right.
But one thing that I have learned over the years is that you're never stuck. You can always make moves towards the right direction if you find yourself in a position that you don't feel is the most ideal for you. But from those situations, I learned what it means to be true to who you are, and then just trust that there is someone out there who would love you and understand you and meet you where you are with the values that you have. And I feel like my husband is a testament to that just in my life. And so I'm grateful in that sense. She's ball.
You wanted to add to that, Jay?
No. I totally agree. I would have to say, like, and maybe this is part of something you may bring up earlier, but I often find some of the most rough times I've had, or things that have happened to me as far as like relationship wise, come during a time where I'm not busy, when I have idleness, right? Because when you have idleness, it's easy for small things to catch your attention, right? Things that would normally be insignificant when you're in the process of doing what you need to do. And so you'll tend to get distracted and go that way. But when you're super busy, something extraordinary has to come by to knock you off your square. And I find out, as And if you just remain about or having some aboutness or being about something during your walking your journey and process, you'll find individuals that will share the same foundation as you because you're moving in that direction. So um, I found that to be true in my life. Um, but maybe there might be some principle that extends outwards to the rest of the world. But I could say that for me, that's been the
Hmm.
case.
Hmm. That's why I think so many relationships were tested during 2020 during the shutdown,
Mm,
because now idle hands,
mm,
people are, like you said, I never noticed that you never pick up behind yourself because I was only dealing with this after 7 at home. What's happening right
right.
now?
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me ask you, you guys both have careers, and you can tell everybody what you all do. With that busy schedule, and how do you have a new baby,
Mhm.
he's just one. You have two other daughters, two bonus children, and there's a lot to shuffle. So how do you guys? Because every time I talk to Jay, and if you ever come up, I don't know if he notices it himself, but there's a giddiness about him when he's talking about whatever it is. Just like when he first started telling me about you, like it has not it is not going down at all. It's still, Shannon will do this and it's the cutest thing, and he'll giggle or whatever. Like, it's the cutest thing to me, and it has, what I love is that it hasn't wavered over all this time. He still has that same love and excitement in his voice when he's talking about you. So how do y'all maintain that with the hustle and the bustle of adulting, truly adulting?
By the grace of God.
Look, I think
Whole lot
I
of church.
I think that you know I just come from the having children perspective. I think my battery has been conditioned longer, and I say that you ever notice like you might buy some kind of electronic item, and you often find that you know you charge the battery, and you're like, man, I felt like it should have charged quicker than that, right?
Mhm.
But it didn't. But then over time, you notice that your device starts to charge a little faster than it did. They call that battery conditioning, and that takes time. And so, from the child rearing process, I've had the time already, so it's easier for me to recharge. Sometimes she looks at me, she's like, "You didn't sleep. I don't even know how you're still operating. Like I can't move, right?" Right? And it's
I know, girl,
because
because I need my sleep.
yeah, it's because of that. So it's kind of hard. I have to manage my expectations because I'm like, if I sometimes in my mind I'm like, well, if I had 2 hours of sleep just like you, and like I'm just getting it done. You know what I'm saying? I have to check myself, like,
Mhm.
yeah, but you had the conditioning a little longer than she does, so it is definitely difficult. We are still trying to figure out how to spend the most opportune time with each other. It's hard. Um, she works part time. I work full time. I work mostly from home. There's some days that we get to see each other in the house, but it's not really like quality time spent. And then by the time nighttime comes around and you put the kids to bed and everybody gets to bed, then that leaves you with getting ready for work and all this stuff. So it's been difficult. Like before we got on the show, we were just laying down on the couch watching TV. You know what I mean? Like that was all we
Fitting
can
in
get
any little
for
place you can.
for an hour. And I think you'll never have enough time. I just keep it honest. You have to make time. And there'll always be something that will distract you. And we just have to try your best and sneak it in those spaces and understand. I think have understanding that we're in this struggle at the same time together. So it's like being patient. Some people may be tempted to say, well, I'm not getting attention here, so I'm gonna go over there. Well, okay,
Right,
you go over there. What happens when y'all get busy over there? You're gonna be in the same
right,
spot again because it's,
right.
it's not about the person. It's how the situation is working out. That's just life. So, you know, but I don't know if you have any.
I think it's definitely like I'm learning with just motherhood at this point because it's a new experience for me with this little guy, like, that's with us all the time. And I love him so much, and he's like the most precious thing, and I'm ever grateful for him. But it's been a shift. It's been a shift in life, in our marriage, everything in that sense. It's an adjustment. And one thing I'm learning is that you have to be intentional with the time that you spend with each other, intentional with those moments, even if they are very few, you know, um, just because it's so easy for that to go by the wayside. And, you hear all that. I hear all that all the time. Like, oh, being married, things get busy with the kids and all this other stuff. And like, I had no idea how life altering it would be in that sense. Um, I worked a fairly stressful job when, right after I had the baby, like after I had finished with maternity leave, I went back and things were pretty rough with just my job in general. And dealing with the sadness that comes with leaving your baby at home and then working these long hours. I was working 5 days a week. Sometimes I was like, what, 12-hour days some days.
Yeah.
It's just insane. But as time has gone on, I think we've gotten better with the adjustment, and I think we're at a place where we communicate about it more. And I don't know. I feel like we're in a much better place than we were at the start of it, and I feel that things will continue to get better as we continue to make adjustments and learn and grow with the process. If that makes sense.
It does.
It's
Mhm.
hard though. It's been hard.
Yeah, and I get it. I get it. Being a mother, trust me, I get it. And I had a village that was helping me as much as possible, but still, that's your baby, and I don't care about the village. I want my baby all the time. That's just what it is.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I always hear people say marriage is such hard work, such hard work. And the way that they say it a lot of times, to me, it sounds negative. And I'm like, I don't want that. The way that you just described it, I could understand that point of it being work, working to make sure that we have time to be with each other, working to make sure that we're stable, financially, spiritually, mentally, physically, that we're, checking on each other. That kind of, it's hard work I can get with. It's the ones that's like, oh, it's just hard. I be like, oh, don't do it then. Don't do
Right.
it.
No, and that's certainly not the picture that I would paint of marriage whatsoever. I think that you have to come to an agreement to protect the space that is yours, right?
Mm.
You have to know that you have to remember what your foundations are. You have to keep lines of communication open, and you need to be able to protect that space. You know, if you know that you have, just kind of using his cup example, if you know that you only have this much room in your cup, right, for things to operate or for you guys to be on a level playing field and be able to communicate with each other, whatever the case may be, then don't go throwing a ton of other things in the cup to
Mm.
overflow it to the point where you can't do that, and then things are compromised. And so it's a balance, learning that when you have work and school and kids and all these other things to juggle. But that might take time, but I think if you stay true to that foundation, your marriage won't be lost in the mix. Like, it's not hard in that sense. Like, if you come, even when it's really tough and we're both just like stressed and just whatever the case may be, when we come back to it and we communicate and remember our love for each other, it makes it all right. Like, it makes everything all right. And you say, okay, I can do this. I can keep going. And so, um, in that sense, I wouldn't say that it's hard. I would say that it's a necessary work for something that you're dedicated to and that you believe in that much. That love means enough to you to fight for it. And that should be with anything in life, honestly. If
Mhm.
you believe in it enough and that's your goal and your purpose, the work and the task at hand shouldn't be a deterrent, at the end of
Yeah,
the day. So,
yeah.
I
And that
would.
it's even in life, like, a basketball player.
mhm.
Yeah, he wants to play at the games. She wants to play at the games. But that practice time becomes a good time, becomes a good experience because I know what the end goal is. So going to practice isn't it's not a heavy weight on me. It's something that I'm doing so that I could be able to score when I'm in the game. So it applies, like you said, throughout life is, if it's something that you want, then you got to be
Yeah,
willing to work for it.
it's
That
worth
makes
it.
sense.
It's worth it. And I think in marriage too, when it comes to, you know, just the structure of it, by nature it requires a degree of selflessness, you know. So you have to have a mutual goal that you're working towards, understanding that the person that you're working towards this goal with has their own personality, have their own needs, have their own wants, desires, all of these things. And so it might mean a bit of compromise here and there, you know, which in addition to the extra work that you may have to put in, you also have to be willing to compromise and you know, give here, give there, whatever the case may be, to make it work. And I feel like a lot of times, especially in our generation nowadays, it's so easy for us to be like really self-centered. Oh, he doesn't feel me in this way, he doesn't do this for me in that way or this way. Not saying that you need to compromise your standards, but just saying that if you have a person who loves you and is there for you and is otherwise a wonderful human being, but if there's something that, you know, where you're just like, it's all about me kind of thing, then you can't expect that to work either, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
I don't know, it goes a little off topic, but it's just another.
No, I'm loving all of this because y'all give me a little bit of hope for my future.
Tons of hope. Don't even.
Jay, you wanted to pick up on that?
No, I think it's cool right where she left it.
I love it. I love it. I noticed a lot with both of your answers. There's a word that just keeps coming up besides love, and that word is communicate. You guys keep talking about communication and how that's key. So I know that you guys give off peaceful vibes, you guys give off love vibes, all that type of stuff. But you're also two human beings. So when it gets to those times where, you know, we're at a disagreement, we're at a head right now, how do you guys handle that without throwing in the towel?
So this is a good question for today, because this morning we went to bed late because we decided to sacrifice and carve out the time to kind of chill with each other, watch a movie. But when you do that with a little person who wakes up at 3 a.m. on the dot,
Don't care about
and
your
then goes back to sleep, and he wakes up and then he's all rolling around and right? You automatically know from jump, if we stay down here for the next 2 hours, then when we go to the room, it's going to be complications from that point to the morning time when he does his thing, right? So that has to be in mind first. I'm always thinking about that. She's usually like, I'm just taking the time. Like, I don't really care about that. I'll worry about that later. And
period.
so that's where the rub happens, because now I sit down here and spend that time, and I'm happy while I'm here. But when it's time to go to bed, then he wakes up, and then now I'm frustrated because I'm like, I knew this was going to happen. Right? So this morning, you know, he gets up and I'm just sleeping. He's rolling around. I brought him to the room. He's rolling around, kicking me, taking the blanket off my head. He's like, da, 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 da. And I'm trying to sleep, and she keeps saying, "It's a beautiful day outside. It's a beautiful day outside. It's a beautiful day outside." So I already know what that means. It's like, oh, we've been sleeping too long. You need to get up. We need to go someplace. And she's like, I'm like, well, we have a show today. And she's like, we could do it from where we're going to. And I'm like, how are we gonna do that with no signal? We can have signal. There's signal there. So now I'm just like, so she's like, it's a beautiful day, but she has not moved yet. She's still laying next to me saying, it's a beautiful day. It's a wonderful day. It's a beautiful day. We need to get up. We don't need to sleep all day. We need to go somewhere and do this and do that and do that. And your mom's not going to be able to see this and do that, do that. And I'm like, but you haven't moved yet. So are you waiting for me to move? Whatever. So now I'm just to the point where I'm just like, okay, I'm going to get up. But then I'm still like, last night we should have watched the movie. We should just went, you know what I'm saying? So, so anyway, I had an attitude, and she was like, no, come on, Caleb, your dad has an attitude, right? He has a stinky attitude or whatever. So
Get the baby on our side.
Right. And so then I leave, and I iron my clothes. I close myself off in the laundry room. I iron my clothes. And I just got to thinking, like, why are you feeling the way you feel? And I thought about it. I was like, I felt like I've been placed in a place of fight or flight. Like I had that feeling like fight or flight, and I don't want to fight, so I rather flight. And I thought about that. I'm like, is this a life-threatening situation here, Jay? Like, is
Right.
this a life? Like she been saying she wanted to go this certain place since the last 2 weeks, bro. And you had a good time last night. So why are you tripping? And I'm like, mentally it's not the issue. It's like I feel like my body's responding, and that just comes from like, you know, things that I've been through. It's like my body's responding to be like, oh, you know, frustrated, and my mind is just like trying to catch up to that, you know. And so finally I thought about it. I was like, yeah, but that's not the way to be, man. It's not the way to be for something that it's not. No one died here, you know what I mean? No one
Right.
died here. And so I had to go back and, you know, I found her and I just apologized. Like, I'm sorry for, you know, I'm acting and like, and I think the communication part comes in is where I express exactly why I behave the way I behave, not just saying I'm sorry, right? And so I said I felt fight or flight, and I decided to flee, right? Because I didn't want to fight, and I'm like, I'm sorry because that wasn't the move.
Right.
And she was like, it's okay, and I was like, no, it's not okay. Say you forgive me. Don't say it's okay. And she
You know
said,
how I feel.
and she kind of looked down a little bit, and then she was just like, I forgive you. But it seemed like it was hard for her to say. I don't know. Maybe she could tell you why, but it seemed like it was hard for her. It seemed like it took a little effort to say, I forgive you. I don't know if she wasn't ready yet. That could have been the key. She could have been like, I'm not ready to forgive you because you should have been acting like, you know. But that's just the evidence of like, I think for us, a lot of the reflection time that allows for the reflection time allows for the communication. Like I think sometimes you can communicate at the wrong time and in the wrong way, and you have to be able to sit back and reflect. Like, okay, I'm gonna go and I want to communicate, but I want to make sure when I communicate that it's effective and that I'm not shifting the blame and that I'm taking some sort of ownership. And once you're able to do that, then you can move forward with presenting your information. You know, I don't know if you've been in corporate, so you know, like you can't just open up PowerPoint and do the presentation during the presentation.
Oh no.
You can't work on your slides while you're
Right.
presenting. You would if you saw somebody doing that, you'd be like, "Yo, is
Yeah,
this
hold on,
person
just wait a minute.
okay?" Right? You can't do that. So sometimes we go into, and we gotta remember, like our communication with each other is a presentation. It represents who we are, what we're thinking, what is our goal, right? And what is our intent. And so if I go in there with none of those things established, what am I doing? Looking for an argument, because that's what arguments are. With no goals, no, none of those things are included. It's just like primal. And so I think that is, for me, that's what allows us to have the communication. Both part. I have to learn how to reflect, and I have to do it even if I believe that she's not going to be receptive to it or whatever, because it doesn't matter. It's the right thing to do, not because whether she accepts it or not. So.
I think like for me, as far as when those moments happen, just like using this morning for instance, I internalize everything and I automatically say, okay, what's wrong with me? What did I do wrong? Was I not enough in this area? You know, like I just kind of spiral and go down that go into that loop. And so I was in there with my son this morning, and like I'm like uber sensitive. Like I cry at the drop of a hat. And so I'm internalizing all of these things just based on the fact that, you know, I'm like, he's probably cranky, like he didn't sleep. This is probably just has an attitude because he's tired. Like that's probably the logical thing. And he's probably more heightened emotionally labile as a result of that. But so am I, because we're both tired. And so I'm sitting in there with my son, and I'm not telling him this, of course, but I'm just thinking all these things while I'm playing with him and everything. And trying to just reason it through and think about it. Like, what can I do to try to remedy this situation without, without lashing out, because I'm, just so hurt by it. And literally comes in just out of the blue and says that. And I was like, it's okay. Like, and then I felt better. I felt better. I felt like, okay. And so when he was like, no, it's not okay, you should say, just say that you forgive me, it's not okay, or whatever the case may be. And I was like, okay, I forgive you, because I truly do. And literally, like, that second, I was like, maybe that was all I needed to hear, just like why it happened, and that you're sorry. It says that you're willing to reason with me and kind of work with me through these things. And that's literally all it takes. I just need that security and that assurance sometimes. So it was that simple. There are times where, I act out of pure raw emotion. He always tells me my words cut. Cut with precision.
It's not you could anybody else could. It's tailored specific for your trigger point. Like it's tailored. Like somebody else can read it and they're like, I don't see what's so wrong with that.
Right, but
I know. Like that was subliminal, right? It was their intent to make me like,
and those things happen. I can't sit here and say, oh, it's so lovey-dovey and we're all perfect all the time. We definitely have moments where things are heated and I'm upset and he's upset, and I speak out of raw emotion. I just get it out there. I feel better for the time being. It's like, that burden, anger, that tension is transferred. It's like I got it off my chest. I'm good to go. But then, it come back around after thinking about it for some time, and just revisit it and say, how would I feel if he did that to me, or how do I feel when that happens to me, kind of thing. And I pray about it, and I swallow my pride and go back and apologize. Sometimes you don't even feel it, you just do it and as you do it, you start to feel it more. But it's the principle, and it's the right thing to do. It's the kind and loving thing to do. And again, like I said, being in a marriage requires a degree of selflessness, and part of that selflessness is being able to say, all right, I was wrong and I apologize and I concede, or whatever the case may be, for the sake of the marriage, and it's worth it, like, at the end of the day. And then we're back on the same playing field, like two kids on the park. So
there you go. What you guys have in common is, from what you were saying, is that you both take a moment to hold yourself accountable. Even if you don't feel like you did anything wrong, okay, well, now I got to ask myself, did I do something wrong? Am I missing something? You kind of go through a checklist that how can I, and then both of you try to figure out, what can I do to rectify the situation? And that too is very dope. And I think that goes for any relationship. Once again, I've recently had to learn how to not blame myself for everything that happens. I recently had to get to a point where, okay, this person is behaving that way. Did I do anything? And I'm going through, no, I didn't do anything. So I'm not going to be offended by your actions until you tell me that I did something. Then I know. But if I'm researching in my mind and you haven't said anything to me and I can't find, we know when we do something wrong, but if it's something that I wasn't wrong about, then I'm not going to be offended by their behavior, because perhaps it has nothing to do with
you. Mm-hmm.
Perhaps he's just tired. It's not something that I did. So here I learned that I've wasted a lot of time being in my head about a story, especially as a writer. I come up with,
right?
Twisted everything. Okay, we're gonna climax, we're gonna come down Act 3, let's go. So I will create a whole scenario in my mind, only to find out it had nothing to do with me.
And that's so funny. That's so funny when you know a person, right? When you know a person really well, that the areas where they are the most sensitive. And so I know that Shannon is like a worst case scenario person. If it's a bump, it's a tumor, right? Right. If it's a headache, it's a brain tumor. You know what I'm saying? And this is a person who comes, but it's not for everything. It's only when it comes to people closest to her,
right,
is where things tend to take wings and go to different realms of existence.
Disclaimer: part of that is my training.
Yeah, but I've listened to her talk talking to her patients, and she's taking me down the rationale of why she did what she did, and she'll ask me, do you think that's the right? Now, here's the funny thing. I don't have no medical training. I ain't passed the boards. I don't have good board scores, none of that. And she's asking me, which shows she values my thought process. But that's another story, right? So she'll go through that, and it'll be like methodical, boom, 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 boom. But if my son does like this in his crib, she's like, he keeps touching his head. Right? But anyway, so I know that that's what it is. And so I've learned not to allow things to linger, because for her, that's going to create like this big, huge story of this worst case scenario if I leave it too long. And I can't admit, sometimes I leave it alone on purpose so she can go through that, just so I can get some sort of, sick, twisted revenge for whatever she did or whatever. But for the most part, I always try to make sure, okay, don't let this linger too long, because I know what that would do to her. For instance, and we talk about relationships, but like if I didn't talk to you in like 3 or 4 days, like I will text you and say, look, I'm still here.
I was about to bring that up.
Yeah, I'm still breathing. But it's been busy. But I'm gonna listen to this last message, and I'm gonna get back to you. And if I don't listen to the 4 or 5 messages you bring, I'll just call you. Right. Because I already know you said you are a writer. We talk, and I know that you will blame yourself for certain things, or past situations will say, okay, this dude is like everybody else who, they want to be friends with you when they feel like, on their terms or whatever, you know what I mean? So I know that. So I'll say, hey, look, I'm still breathing. I'm good. We good. I'll hit you up when
appreciated. No, and it is appreciated, because getting to know me, you understand I have serious abandonment issues. I have serious separation anxiety, all of those types of things. So, and I am quick to think somebody is just ghosting me, because it's happened so many times. So understanding, that's why I said this is so beautiful, this conversation, because things can be applied to all types of relationships. And learning people, it's just like the other day when I hit you up, because I had to drop off that package in the mall. And you were like, there's some things I just don't joke with you about, because I already know that I cannot joke with you when it comes to certain things. Learning people's, that was the first episode of this season, learning people's love language. And that goes for friends, family, romantic relationships, all of that. You have to learn how people receive things. And it honestly makes life easier for both parties when you know how, and you care about how they receive it, because you may know and then decide you're going to let them linger for a little while so that you can have your revenge.
Twisted revenge.
That's
what cutting me deep with those words. Now you got to sit on it.
At the end of the day, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh, no, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just going back to what you were saying about all types of relationships, and being able to learn that person takes a degree of care, takes a degree of love, takes a degree of concern for them. Because if you don't have that type of investment, or that interest in that type of investment in that person, then you're not going to take the time to learn those things about them. And I think that's always been one of the really cool things about him, like from the beginning, is just how invested he was. The little things that he knows, like I'll give you an example. Last night, for instance, one thing I do, and I guess it's become more of a rite or a ritual, I will go and check on my baby, like I'm sure most mothers do. You go and I check on him when he's sleeping. I just go and I check in, make sure he's comfortable and healthy and all these other things. And then I come back and go to bed. I pray for him too when I'm there. But I guess in my mind, I was like, oh, I have to give him a reason as to why I always go there before I go to bed, before coming back to bed. And so I was like, oh, I just pray for him every night. So I'm just going to go, and it'll be like 3 or 4 in the morning. I'm just getting into bed. I'm like, oh, I know he just went down, or it might wake him up for me to go in there, but I have to go and see how he's doing before I go to sleep, because we're in separate rooms now. Like, he's in his own nursery. So I told Jason, I was like, oh, like making an excuse. I just go to pray for him every night, and I left it at that and went in there and did my thing. He never says anything. And then last night, because we got in bed a little later after watching the movie, I was about to do the same. And he's like, all right, like you're gonna wake him up when you go in there type of thing. And I was like, well, I have to be honest with you. He was like, I already know why you go in there. Like, you know,
I just let you tell me what you want to tell me, but I already know.
You lie what you say what you want, but I already know. And so it's just little things like that, like that say to me that, hey, he's that invested in me. And I see that with his relationships with others and vice versa, you know, the people that you love and genuinely care about, you make that time, you make that investment to learn what's important to them. But he's really good at that.
Moral of the story, he woke up. So he woke up. But no. What she said,
laundry room ironing.
Right? But what she said is true. Like, I think the one thing I can say out of all the things she mentioned is like, you have to care. Never at the basement level, you have to care. If you don't care, then all that stuff is immaterial. But you have to care, genuinely care about the person. You have to, like I always say, respect their journey. But if you don't care about the journey, you don't like, you ain't think about none of that. You're like, I don't care if she's mad or not. It don't make me no difference. Like, whatever, that's her business, right? But if you care, you know, that's another added level of stress that you're bringing. Because actually caring is not something that's just like you give it out one way and that's it. Like when you give out the caring, whatever negative that person had actually comes to you, right? Because in order to care, you have to like, you can't hug a bloody person and come back with no blood on you.
Right.
It's just not going to work like that. And so when you care, there's some collateral there, some collateral damage that you can accrue.
A degree of burden sharing.
Yeah. Burden sharing or however, you know what I mean? If you're standing up for somebody who's being bullied, there's a chance you might get punched in the face too for just not minding your business. Right. But you care. And so that far outweighs whatever's coming back. You know what I mean? So yeah, you have to genuinely care. You
guys are super dope. So what we're going to do right now, because we're coming to the end, we're going to go to our commercial break. And then we're going to have Jay's Way on the other side, where I'm going to allow both of you to kind of wrap it up and give advice to any of those couples coming up, just a general thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to commercial, and we'll see you on the other side.
She thought walking away was hard to do, until walking away led to truth. Discovering a peace that was hovering, but never before allowed to enter her soul. She thought she'd grow old and even cold. If life continued on the trajectory it was headed, complacency seemed inevitable. Until she took a look at herself and said, I'm betting on you. Exploring new worlds and new views, different energies and attitudes. Allowing her heart to be open, it became consumed by what could be described as a fantasy, far from tragedy, no. A dream that if told in a story would seem too good to be true. Taking the form of perfection, physical frequencies felt through erections, emotional energies flowing like oceans. Ocean brings forth life anew, birthing art inspired by Mahogany's muse. "30 is only a dream away, and just Copeland can feel it. Her unexpected journeys are filled with unpredictable obstacles, but she finds escape in her poetry. However, each rhyme she creates reveals that her life's path is still unwritten. Rather than face the unknown in fear, just cherishes a sense of peace in knowing every day she's given a blank page to fill with lines of her destiny, however colorfully chaotic it may be."
She holds the secrets to the universe in her eyes, and she sees no need to hide behind a mask that the masses deem necessary to have. She is confident in who she is, her walk, the way she moves her hair, and especially her skin sun-kissed. Whether she wears makeup or is as natural as the day she was born, whether she is bare or with silver and gold adorned, she knows her worth. And even though people and situations have caused her hurt, she stays filled with strength and confidence. Her eyes are her evidence. They tell a story of who she is. She is not hers or his. She belongs to the Most High. She allows him to be her guide. Her self-esteem, though often misconstrued, exudes the beauty she feels within. She loves who she is unapologetically. Sometimes it's viewed as cocky, but she remains humbly self-assured. Her place in life secured. She understands she is a gift because she knows who she is.
Beautiful, sun-kissed, radiant, confident, intelligent, creative, appealing. She knows she's a queen, she's everything.
Allow me to proceed with this hood drama, this ghetto saga. Turn off the lights and bring out the candelabra. 'Cause everything I'm about to tell you is the truth on my mind.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another segment of Jay's Way on It's Just a Conversation, our Black Love in Your 30s segment. We want to take this time first to thank God for the opportunity to be able to just kind of be in a place where we can talk about these things openly and be able to share something with someone that could possibly help them. And so Black Love in Your 30s, I think, is big because we live in a place, in a world where cancel culture is rampant, not just for celebrities, but we end up canceling each other for various reasons. And so what we want to do is show that we can love and we can genuinely care for each other, regardless of those tough times, regardless of our faults and the choices that we make. Because at the end of the day, it is only because of the mercies of God why everything we do or don't do, it's only by His grace that we're not held accountable for them. Because if we did, none of us would be worthy. So we take this opportunity to just tell people to just communicate, love when it doesn't feel good, be kind when in some instances be kind when it's undeserving, because at the end of the day, we all are undeserving in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Understanding that true love is unconditional. It does require you to sacrifice when it's hard. It does require you to take a back seat sometimes. It does require you to, decide to stay quiet, even when you feel that you would be justified in speaking and throwing daggers or whatever the case may be. It takes that self-control, it takes that selflessness, it takes that compassion. It's not an easy journey all the time, but it's a journey that's worth it. It's a journey that lasts a lifetime. It's a journey that's beyond, the materialistic things that we see around us. True love truly lives forever, and it's something worth investing in. So make that investment fully and wholly.
Yeah, I mean, another thing is, like, sometimes we hear these types of things, and some of them can end up being cliches, and it's like, what's the practical application? And I would say practical application is this: if you're having a disagreement with a loved one, a friend, a romantic interest, and you guys are in the throes of this argument, this disagreement, or there's a place where you guys have some space and you're able to think about it. Think about if a news reporter came by and wanted to get a report of everything that's going on so they can put it in the next front of the paper. Would you be ashamed of what they printed? And if you would be ashamed of what the journalist printed, then maybe you should go and rectify that situation or do something different. So I would say that is a very practical application for a lot of the things that a lot of cliche terms. We talk about love, communication, and relationship.
You guys are so dope. And I'm yeah, I thank you. It's crazy because I was trying to figure out who to bring on this month. And then when I thought of you guys, it was like, duh. I should have thought about this in December. Duh. So I'm so glad that it worked out that you guys could come on and be able to share. I'm sure there's people who will listen to this who will be able to find something out of it. I know I have. And I think what stuck with me the most is just that patience and allowing things to just happen. Because me, I'm putting my finger all in it. But I'm learning how to keep my hands to myself. Okay. So thank you again for coming on here. Before we go, well, first of all, shout out to Cousin Paul. I've been wearing his
that care package he sent.
Perfectly imperfect. What'd you say?
That care package he sent.
You want some mine? Okay. So it says perfectly imperfect because that's me. That's me. So for those of you watching, please remember UVB TV has a lineup. On Mondays, we have Rewind. On Tuesdays, we have In Your Point Is. Wednesdays, we have Unvaccinated Voices. Thursdays, the best night of the week. Why? Because it's just the conversations. And then the Hensons on Fridays. Oh, yes. We're about to have some good times with those two. Noon on Saturday, we have NASCAR's Eddie Clark's NASCAR Minute. Plus, and on Sundays, we have Sunday Brunch powered by YouTube and also Eddie's Clark's NASCAR Minute. And we have a whole bunch of other stuff coming like UVB TV Comedy Corner. Let me tell you something. Because my daddy basically said we take it over. That's bad. So subscribe, because every single day when you subscribe, hit the remind thing on YouTube so that you can come and get a reminder of all of these different shows. You see, we have great guests that come on. And before we head out one more time, I appreciate you too. I appreciate you even more as we were talking, and I'm learning that you guys were supposed to be out doing things, yet you still loved me enough to come and help me out today with this. And I so appreciate you for that. I need you to kiss on my baby for me. And all of the cheekage, you know what I'm saying? And all of that good stuff. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
Most definitely. And we will see you guys next week.
All right.
Remember, you can find It's Just a Conversations and so much more at melanatedverses.com. Also, follow me on social media platforms at Melanated Verses.
This is just a conversation. Everybody don't know more than observation. They're telling us to be patient, but we gon' take it, we gon' not be complacent. We cannot erase us. First part of history and all our innovation. We just having conversation. Everybody don't know more than observation. This is just a